Hello everyone, this is Nambernan, and today I'll be reviewing every game of not MPL, but MWP Week 2. Before we do that though, I'm just gonna take a quick look at these usage stats that were posted, I believe 2 days after I posted that video. Regardless, this shows very decent stats. So we'll just go over these real quick. There's not really a lot, so it's still 1 week. I would wait until week 4 before we start making any confirmations or confirmed trends off the graph, but it is still crazy to see because the 3 most used types are exactly as I thought they would be: Dark Dragon, Steel. Very shocked that there's still no Fairy usage, but it is what it is. Interestingly, Dragon has lost every game that it's played, meanwhile Steel is 50-50 right now. People were telling me that Steel has fallen off and doesn't do well anymore, but it seems like it's actually Dragon's turn to not do well. Seems like everybody is prepping for Dragon, and Dark is once again it just seems unbeatable, or not unbeatable, but it seems incredibly strong. So yeah, Fighting is also doing well. Water is okay. Bug and Flying both winning their games. Bug surprisingly doing very well in both matches, as we saw last time, but yeah. It's only a sample size of 16 games, nothing really of note. And when it comes to Pokemon used, besides the weird records that I saw last game, nothing's really surprising, like same 6 months on Fire, not tracking. Nothing super surprising here. In Ghost, maybe Mimikyu, but not really. Sandground still makes sense, right? Tusk's being used as I predicted. Poison, same couple of mons that get used. Steel, nothing shocking here, and Polion lost its game, unfortunately. Water has the most variety, unsurprisingly. Keldeo's lost both games, so is Swamper. But yeah, nothing really worth like super observing here. Obviously, everything on Dragon is lost because Dragon hasn't won a single game. But with that aside, also interesting to note that every Dragon team has had the 3 of these Pokemon. Maybe we'll see if that changes, but these 3 Pokemon are usually considered to be like the most mandatory Pokemon on the type, so we'll see. And Electric almost won its game. This is like a half loss in my eyes because the guy got robbed. Unfortunately, sacrificed, lost to a 5% miss. Happens, but it's unfortunate because Electric winning would have been really huge, but unfortunately that did not happen. Alright, without further ado, let's move on to the matches. I'm going to be a little bit more brief this time around. I'm not going to be as speculative. So pardon me if it feels like I'm rushing a bit or I'm just going too fast. But yeah, it's because I'm trying to not make this video like an hour long, so that way people will actually try to at least watch it and see and get like an idea of what's going on in this tournament, at least on the Scarlet and Violet side. So without further ado, and don't worry, I made sure all the Monotype replays were deleted. So this is all SV. But first match is between Tarre and Rinda. We got Water versus Fire. This is a very classic matchup because Water seems like it can win, but Fire is actually very strong and can win as well. Nothing chucking on Fire here, same 6 mons as usual. Water, we see a little bit of an interesting Spike's offense team with Samurai. Rain with Kingdra again. Seems like Kingdra seems to be popping up a bit more than I'm used to. We also have a Toxapex with an Urshifu instead of a Keldeo for fighting. So let's see how this goes. So we lead with Ogerpon. That puts Samurai in a and we're already off to a rough start because Ogerpon missed the Power Whip, and because it missed the Power Whip, that means it's not. Oh, this is not good. It's not looking very good for our Fire user. The instant Drizzle. We get the Will-O-Wisp onto Pelipper on the predicted switch. Heatran comes out, possibly to block the any Pelipper attack. It uses U-turn, popping the Balloon. Balloon Pop doesn't seem to be that impactful, except for Spikes, but yeah, it is rain, so we will be losing Heatran to that. The sun comes out, but Teleport can just come in for free because Ninetales doesn't really have a way to threaten it. Ninetales doesn't seem like this game should be over. For the side of fire, because Teleport does not use Hurricane here. Interesting. We see Kingdra come out instead, and Kingdra should just be able to click Surf every single time and kill, because yeah, it is unfortunate that the first move missed, because if it had not... Yeah, the reason why that miss mattered so much was because, well, if he hit the first one, then Samurai would have been reduced to its Sash, even though I'm thinking that it may not have been Focus Sash, but if it had been Focus Sash, it would have been brought down to that, and then easily force out or KO'd. And then Cinderace would have been able to find a position to swap the spikes over to enemy side, and Cerulog's Sash would have stayed intact. Fortunately, that did not happen because he missed, and led to the awkward situation. So yeah, this isn't really a Monotype moment, this is just an unfortunate miss leading to a cascading amount of failure on the side of Tarre. But not much you can really blame on Tarre there, that's just very sad, and it's unfortunately a part of Pokemon. But let's move on to the next match. We got Twinkay versus Rio Vidal. We got Dark versus Sandless Ground. Dark using Darkrai, Greninja, and Maskeauuu. Seems like we got a Tinglu as well. No Roaring Moon, and a Mandibuzz. So let's see what's going on here. So we've got Choice Scarf, Landorus, Incarnate. Both people are leading off with U-turn. Sirian Samurai comes out and stops Cecil's edging, getting their spike spam, get the Ruination from Tinglu, cutting its HP in half. Tinglu switches out into Quagsire, most likely to take whatever physical hit Samurai is about to dish out, which it was a good hit to take. Sacred Sword would have done a decent amount of damage to Tinglu. Clodsire comes out now to try and take whatever Maskeauuu is about to throw. Maskeauuu uses a Flower Trick, and I think that may be Scarf damage, not Band damage. Otherwise Band would have killed there. We do get the Ceaseless Edge again, laying down another Spike. Another Ceaseless Edge. Now we got all Spike layers, but that counter does take the Hisuian Samurai out. Now Greninja gets poisoned, and we unfortunately do lose our Clodsire here. Iron Treads does come out though, and because he doesn't have Sableye, he's able to safely spin these rocks, or not rocks, but spikes away. Which means all of Samurot's work has just gone out the window, and he's essentially hazards free. Tinglu now comes out, but the enemy Tinglu does have Stealth Rock. I forgot, that was an oversight on my part, my apologies. No Ruination does miss though, and we get Spike Stealth Rock on Twinkay's side now. Gliscor now comes out, get the Ruination onto Gliscor. Well, what set is this Gliscor? Will it be Substitute? Will it be something else? We'll see. We get the Earthquake, hitting nothing as Mandibuzz is immune. We get a knockoff, getting rid of Mandibuzz's very important heavy-duty boots, which can be very annoying for Mandibuzz later on in the game if this goes much longer. Mandibuzz uses Taunt to stop Gliscor from doing its shenanigans. The taunt now falls onto, or he did not taunt again, he used Foul Play instead to maybe try and catch either Landorus or Iron Treads. Ruination does come onto Mandibuzz though, and a taunt does go through. You see a Roost, and Ruination is still used. Ruination keeping Mandibuzz at perma 50% HP, and with those knocked off heavy duty boots, it will find it harder to switch into moves, so Tinglu gets brought down to 7% HP by Twinkay's Tinglu. But now we get the Gliscor to come in. Gliscor takes the Ruination, still heals off with the... Ooh! And a hard Ice Beam from Rio Vidal. But the Gliscor maybe not have Protect, I highly doubt it, but... We do lose the Gliscor, unfortunately. In comes our friend Quagsire. Quagsire able to take both hits from Darkrai, so Darkrai is not choice. Actually, it is technically bits actually, because it should be closing right now. But yeah, we see the Choice Scarf Commanders come in. Now Greninja should be Choice Specs, because we know that Yaskarada is Choice Scarf. So Greninja is now dead. And now we have to play around Yaskarada and Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz should be easier to deal with though, because it is low HP. We get the Flower Trick onto Iron Treads. Iron Treads able to recover its HP and slowly whittle down Yaskarada. Yaskarada is Choice Guard, so it doesn't hit very hard. We get the Rapid Spin to remove the rocks, allowing Tinglu to just have a little bit more HP when it comes in. Flower Trick is used again, and this Protect will guarantee the victory for our friend Twinkay here, as he will now kill Yaskarada, who, of course, as we knew, had Choice Guard. And now Mandibuzz comes in, and if he has Ice Spitter, this should be over. It is not, though. But the Iron Head Flinch does unfortunately secure the game. Now, it's arguable whether or not Twinkay would have actually lost or not here, depending on how he played his, depending on how he played Tinglu and what Tinglu had for Mandibuzz, it could have been a very hard game, because if he doesn't have another offensive move under Imbuination, he actually does lose to Mandibuzz. But if he has another offensive move, he probably does win. And this set, as you can see, probably doesn't win the 1v1 against Mandibuzz and loses to foul play. And it lacks recovery, so it can't really do much against it, but that Iron Head Flinch basically saves Twinkay probably a lot of time and frustration with potential Ruination misses and all that. So, yeah, that is it for that game. Very, very well played from both sides. And also another very dark loss, and Sandground proving that it is indeed viable even in this metagame. So, let's move on to the next replay. Got Wincon versus Scarfire. So we have a Sand Ground team. Not standard Sand Ground though, because there's no Excadrill. So we'll see what the Hippowdon ends up offering. It's probably going to be used mainly for chip damage and wearing down bulkier Pokemon, mainly flying types, which certainly enough Wincon Z has. So let's see how this goes. You also do see Minosaur, so Flying may have a tough time dealing with that. We see the Stealth Rock, not the Stealth Rock, the lead of Garchomp is the Life Orb mix set. Now in comes Powdon. Powdon probably going to be using Stealth Rock here. As we switch into Corviknight, the Stealth Rocks do go down and Gliscor comes in for free, allowing it to get off its Toxic Orb. And now a free Swords Dance coming in on the side of Scarfire. Gyarados comes in to slowly wear it down, but another Swords Dance comes through. Facade is used. And Dragon Tail, the defensive Gyarados set, comes out and clutches up, preventing an otherwise scary situation for Wincon, but now his Gyarados has Force to Rest, making it so that Scarfire could potentially just get his Gliscor set up again and cause a big issue. As I say it, the Gliscor comes in again, and most likely gets a free Sword Sense off since Corviknight can't really do anything. And now the unfortunate knockoff, removing those very, very crucial stealth, heavy-duty boots from Articuno. Now Articuno is in a very hard spot once those rocks go down because it cannot come in for free. Wincon does use his Intimidate on Gyarados to slowly, or to somewhat neutralize the threat of Amazon. He uses Sleep Talk to burn a Sleep Turn. It is still slowly getting worn down by Sand though. We see Corviknight come out again, and he's going to be forced to defog. Strangely enough, Scarfire does not decide to go straight into Gliscor this time around to get a free Swords Dance. Instead, he's opting to try and keep up Stealth Rocks. Actually, a very smart play by Scarfire, forcing Corviknight to use an offensive move, allowing it to wear itself down. So now it's going to be harder for him to come in later. but it probably shouldn't do that much in this position of the game. Unfortunately, we do see a Icicle Crash land onto Tornado's Therian and completely knock it out, so that's not very good for Wincon. We see the Waterfall come out, but of course Clodsire is immune. Gyarados is free from sleep the next turn that it is used though. See Gliscor come out. Gliscor tries to use Toxic, but it unfortunately is absorbed by enemy Gliscor. Now we see Articuno come out. Metaswarm comes out as well, but it has Smackdown, so we are probably forced out, yep, into Gyarados, who can afford to come into an Icicle Crash thanks to its neutrality. It is also still getting worn down by Sand. This Sand, as I thought, is doing a lot of work against Gyarados and the other flying types. You see the Dragon Tail come out, forcing out the Powdon and not allowing it to get Self-Rock up. Fortunately, the knockoff from Great Tusk gets rid of Corviknight's Rocky Helmet. And the Hippowdon does come in. Wincon switches out into his Gyarados, who should be... Oh no, it's not awake because it just recently slept. Misses the Dragon Tail though, and unfortunately that miss will lead to Stealth Rocks going up. Corviknight comes in to try and get rid of those rocks as soon as possible, but he is Whirlwinded out, and Landorus Therian is put in. We are now confirming that it is not a standard Swords Dance set. It may be Choice Scarf or something else. Due to the fact that Leftovers did not go off that turn, but it could be something else. We don't know for sure. Swords Dance does come through though. The Defog removes the rocks, but there's a +2 Gliscor currently causing issues. Gliscor does use the Facade. Gyarados Dragon Tails risks it all to make sure that Gliscor cannot sweep the entire team. We see Landorus come out, but it eats an Icicle Crash for free, and just like that, the match is over. Flying could not manage against the powerful core of both Gliscor and Manaswine. Because with setup Gliscor and Manaswine basically threatening every single Ice type on the enemy team, there's just nothing Wincon could do to really combat that. So good prep from Scarfire, and well played to Wincon for trying his best to play it out with the defensive Gyarados. We still don't know what set this Landorus Therian was, but it's very likely it could have been Choice Scarf. We do not know for sure though. We do not know for sure. Let's move on to the next replay. So we have Xiri versus Zugubu Royale. We have Ghost versus Empoleon. I wouldn't say that's stalled water, but it definitely is a very, very fat water team. But yeah, this should be an interesting matchup. As Xiri does have Bramble Gas, which should be a problem for Zugubu's team because most water teams usually have an issue with grass. But that have Toxapex and Empoleon both defending it harshly, so let's see how he manages to deal with Ghost's very strong breakers because Spectrier and Fluttermane are on the team. And he doesn't have an unaware wall like, not Quagsire, Quagsire. So we're going to see how he manages to deal with Ghost Power Breakers and Ceruledge. Leave a Dragapult into Toxapex, Dragapult forced out. Toxapex uses Toxic Spikes immediately. But the Goldingo is a nasty blood set. You see the Shadow Ball come through, Alomomola swaps out with Flip Turn, popping the balloon for Goldingo, allowing it to be more vulnerable to Gastrodon. Not that it matters though, because it is instantly KO'd by Greninja. Greninja likely choice specs as it switched out from that Dragapult. Dragapult uses Dragon Dance, does a measly 50% to Toxapex. Toxapex hazes, negating all of Dragapult's boosts and wearing it down by 24% HP. Bramble Gas not heavy duty boots. Likely Rocky Helmet instead of heavy duty boots. But as you can see, Toxapex is not exactly forced to do anything. It can keep putting down Toxic Spikes while Bramble Gas slowly gets worn down. Now, Xiri is probably planning on using Strength Step to heal his Bramble-Gas back up, and is trying desperately to keep these off the field so that he can get his Cerulege in for free and allow it to keep its sash intact. Unfortunately, though, looks like he will be. He lives on 2%. Alright, Spectria comes in. And now Zugubu is in a bit of trouble. We've got a nasty plot on the Spectrier. It is very strong right now. Fortunately, ooh, the roar into the Cerulege, instant sash break. That is very bad for Xiri. But we'll see how he tries to recover. He insta-sword stances. Suicune dodges the Poltergeist, which is very sad, and the Cerulege doesn't die, but it still takes a hefty amount. The second Poltergeist does connect, but unfortunately it does not kill. It would have killed had he hit the first one, though. Bramble-Gas comes out and doubling into Dragapult. Fortunately, Zugubu seems to either predict the double or just didn't really care about it, as he Calm Minds in front of Xiri. Unfortunately, Suicune, unless it puts Protect here, is probably gone. Yep, he switches into Alomomola. Alomomola takes the Dragon Darts and probably can switch out into Toxic Effects. Yep. And Dragapult should be KO'd at this range. Now Fluttermane comes in. We're not sure how he's going to end up dealing with the Greninja. Maybe the game's already over and we don't know it. But Fluttermane does keep spamming its Shadow Ball, weakening Alomomola. Gastrodon comes in with the heavy-duty boots, allowing it to not get worn down by spikes. Gastrodon itself decides to put down spikes, and that makes it so that Bramble-Gas cannot come in again, and that should be the game, I believe. But Spectre could maybe do something here. Now, Spectre could use Hyper Beam here and knock out the Greninja, but it is unlikely. Ooh, it uses Draining Kiss instead. That's actually really good for Xiri. This could be really bad for Zugubu Royale. Yes, because the Shadow Ball actually kills. Oh no. The Shadow Ball KOs Gastrodon as well. Oh, this was a passive throw by Zugubu Royale. And yeah, Spectre just completely annihilates the game. Yeah, an unfortunate sequence of events for Zugubu leads to Spectre just completely destroying his team. The nasty plot into Draining Kiss specifically KOing Greninja, actually led to Zugubu not being able to wall the Spectre because with the Grenade boost, none of his Pokemon could actually tank the hit, and Empoleon's already weakened, so yes, he actually wasn't able to deal with it. And because he just wasn't able to deal with it because of that nasty plot. So the nasty plot, Spectre proving very useful. And I thought he was going to use Hyper Beam, but no, he had Draining Kiss. Perfect. But yeah, this is just an example to show like how absolutely insane the Spectre Pokemon can do against these fatter teams. It can probably do this against flying as well, but it probably won't find as many easy opportunities since wearing down flying teams where it can be useful is a bit harder than a water team. But yeah, well played to Xiri for sticking it out and not giving up. And we'll just move on to the next game. Crumbs versus Memphis. I actually don't know the real names of either of these players. I highly doubt these are their main names, but regardless, the matchup we see here is Dragon Beast Steel. We have Latios Dragon versus I would definitely say unusual Steel team, because there's no Sword Stance or X-Control. There's no Sword Stance user or X-Control in the enemy team. So maybe the main win condition is, it could be an offensive Iron Tread set? I'm not sure, but we'll see. Goodra lead into Arcaludon lead. Arcaludon not trying to mess with Goodra early, so Goodra instantly gets the knockoff off and gets rid of Skarmory's Haraki helmet. Dragapult comes in. Scarfire uses spikes immediately. Corviknight comes in to stop the Dragapult. Dragapult is special, and this is probably a prediction by Memphis. Memphis does do the roost, but unfortunately he gets the Spadef drop, which is not very good for him. He's forced to swap out into Archaludon, who can't really take special hits that well. But it is the Choice Scarf set based on that damage, so it does try to get the cheesy KO on Dragapult, but fortunately, Crumbs does switch back into Goodra, but Goodra takes a very hefty hit. Crumbs using the very rare Goodra Life Dew set, which I've actually wanted to use for a while, but yes, this Life Dew set is actually proving to be very good, because now Goodra isn't as worn down as it would be. Because normally Goodra would be at 54% there, but now it's at a significantly higher HP, meaning you could come into these spikes and potentially take another hit, but more on that later. Gholdengo blocks the Thunder Wave, and tries to use the Thunder Wave of its own, but Dragonite is able to dodge it. Skarmory comes in on the Dragonite Dragon Dance. Dragonite decides to use Outrage. Skarmory able to tank it fairly easily, and it's probably going to either Whirlwind or doesn't end up doing anything actually. Latias comes in. We do see the Whirlwind this time. Archaludon is Heavy Duty Boots. Dragapult coming in to try and threaten Skarmory. A Cassib Berry on the Gholdengo stops it from getting OHKO'd by Dragapult, and results in Dragapult instead getting KO'd by its own Hex. Corviknight comes in to stop anything from the Walking Wake. Walking Wake uses Knockoff to get rid of Corviknight's leftovers. The Hydro Steam not doing that much damage due to Corviknight being specially defensive. And the Walking Wake is also Heavy Duty Boots, so it doesn't have specs to have that breaking power. Archaludon does come in and gets the Thunder Wave off though. But Corviknight throws in a taunt to stop Archaludon from doing anything else. See the Flash Cannon coming from Archaludon, probably fishing for a Spadef drop. We do get a Stamina boost on Archaludon. The Body Press comes into nothing as Gholdengo comes in for free. Archaludon cannot take a hit from Gholdengo, so it ends up switching out. Gholdengo recovers its HP, switches out, and Goodra uses Dragon Tail to pop the Iron Tread's balloon and force in Skarmory. Skarmory likely going to threaten out Goodra with the Body Press, and Archaludon does come in and takes the Body Press. You see Dragonite come back out, and Gholdengo comes out as a response. Skarmory comes back out as well, with Dragonite doing a Dragon Dance. Dragonite does another Dragon Dance. Skarmory is likely going to try and Whirlwind it away. We do see the Outrage come out again. Skarmory uses Whirlwind. Walking Wave comes in as a response. Corviknight takes the Hydro Steam very easily, trying to fish for a Parror here, but he does not get it. We do still see Hydro Steams, but it is slowly getting worn down by Corviknight's pressure. We do see the Flip Turn come out, and in comes Latias. Now, does Latias have Trick? Let's find out. Gholdengo comes in, possibly as a response. Gholdengo takes an Ice Beam instead of anything else. So Goodra does come back in. The Thunder Wave does come through, and now Goodra is under danger because it can get parried, and it will take bonus damage from Hex. Crumbs does not care though, and decides to use Dragon Tail, forcing out Gholdengo and putting it in. Corviknight wearing it down a little bit. The Dragon Tail on Iron Treads, however, does miss, and is forced to retreat, as Iron Treads does potentially threaten a KO on Goodra. The Draco Meteor comes out, and unfortunately Latias does die, meaning that his Healing Wish support is now gone, making it so that it's harder for his Dragon team to stay around for very long. With these full spike layers. See the recover from Gholdengo again. Goodra takes a massive amount of damage. The knockoff goes through, but doesn't do much damage. Gholdengo recovers its HP. Dragon Tail comes through again. Archaludon is brought out. Archaludon is able to KO the Goodra with its Draco Meteor, but now Dragonite is able to set up. Memphis may be going for a cheeky crit here, but he's not. We get 2 Dragon Dances on the Dragonite. And he tries to KO the Skarmory again with Outrage, but is unable to. Skarmory able to take these Outrages very easily and roost them off. Dragonite does end up hurting itself in the process, and Skarmory forces it out with Whirlwind. Another Thunder Wave block from the Gholdengo, and Dragonite gets parried by Gholdengo. Walking Wake now comes in to take the Hex, but unfortunately Gholdengo is just too powerful in this scenario and is able to wear down Walking Wake and KO it. And now everything on Crumbs' team is KO'd by Gholdengo. This was just a very, very strong showing for Gholdengo in this matchup. 6-0'd. Unfortunate. Dragon doesn't fare too well against Seal typically, but it does have ways to play around it, but in this case, Memphis was more than ready to take on Dragon, and his team was just very stonewallish. It just wasn't easy to break, and with those spikes and Dragon's lack of removal, it was very hard for Dragon to find itself getting rid of these hazards. The Life Dew set on Goodra did do decently well, but it is unfortunate that it couldn't really shine as well due to its teammates constantly getting worn down and unable to deal with Steel's very powerful defensive core. So maybe this is why Dragon is seeing a lot less success, is because Dragon just is unable to do anything about the hazard stack meta that is going on, besides spamming heavy duty boots. But yeah, it is very, very sad game for a Dragon player. Memphis did play well though, so good job to him and his builders. Let's move on to the next game. Clean versus Yedla. We see a Dragon team with Roaring Moon versus a Flying team with Enamorous and Moltres as well. Not Galarian Moltres, regular Moltres. So let's see how this goes. Alright, so get the instant swap out into Corviknight. Latios using Ice Beam to do absolutely 0 damage to Corviknight. Corviknight taking a very hefty hit from Thunderbolt though, as it seems Latios is not choice. Goodra comes in, the Xiri raising Enamorous' speed instead of lowering it, which is very bad, depending on the set. Fortunately, it does not appear to be a non-choice set. If it was a non-choice set, Queen would have been in very big trouble. The Thunderbolt comes out, seemingly Clean was prepared for this matchup. And we see Gliscor come out as a response. Gliscor instantly uses Earthquake, wearing down Archaludon a little bit, and activating its Toxic Orb. We see another Earthquake come out, further lowering Archaludon's HP. We see the Stealth Rock come out from Gliscor. Now both sides have Stealth Rock on their sides of the field. Landorus now comes in and takes the Flash Cannon. Psychic is used, but doesn't do much to Archaludon. Landorus now in dangerous HP. Landorus is, however, not Choice Scarf, and it is indeed Life Orb. But it did take too much damage, so now it is KO'd by a Latios Ice Beam. Enamorous is Choice Scarf, so these Moon Blasts are going to hit very hard. Unfortunate Kemro does nothing this game. Roaring Moon is also Choice Scarf, however, and is going to likely Iron Head. Corviknight coming in as a response, but it will end up taking a knockoff and dying as a result. Dragonite comes in to Revenge Kill, but unfortunately all it does is hit a Outrage, and now it is slowed and probably will get Revenge Killed by, as you can imagine, Latios, who likely, it doesn't clean the rest of the team just yet, but fortunately Enamorous does take that, and Roaring Moon does come in. Can Gliscor wall this effectively? Let's find out. So the Toxic Orb is knocked off, meaning that Roaring Moon does get walled here. Does Gliscor have Toxic and Toxic here? No, it uses Protect instead, meaning that he definitely loses here. Because Latios can just spam Ice Beam and instantly make progress. Now Enamorous comes in. Enamorous uses Superpower. Superpower in the hopes that he will live the Iron Head coming from Roaring Moon, but it is very unlikely. Yes, he does not live, and Roaring Moon does end up winning. Very explosive game from both sides. Fortunately, we didn't really get to see many of the tech bonds do anything. This just played out very standardly. Mixed, well not really mixed, but non-choice to Latios, proving to be very powerful against flying. The flying team couldn't really do much, due to Latios just outspeeding Landorus and being able to threaten it. And the only other thing that was allowed to outspeed it was Enamorous, but he had multiple switch-ins to be able to deal with that, and he was just unable to break through those switch-ins before Latios was just able to KO his entire team. So it was very unfortunate. But well played to Clean, well played to Yedla as well. Both sides played this fun. We'll move on to the next game. Also, that was a rare dragon win, I would like to add, so kudos to you. Alright, now we have another attempt at using Electric, and this time it's against Normal, strangely enough. This is an unprecedented match, and the Normal team is even using the Dunsparce, which I have not used this mon yet, so I actually am very curious what this mon is going to do. And the Electric team also does not have Oricorio, so let's see how this goes. Terrapagos instantly transforms, meaning that is not Zoroark. We do see the Volt Switch come out, and the Thunder Punch absolutely obliterate Braviary. Braviary is now KO'd after doing a crit to our Iron Hands. Terrapagos comes in, but that is not actual Terrapagos, that is Hisuian Zoroark. Actually pulling off a unique tech there that I haven't seen people do on the ladder. Actually pre-transforming his Terrapagos so that it actually can be fooled with Zoroark. But yeah, the Dunsparce comes in, doesn't do anything. Wash able to get to +6 without suffering much besides a yeah, Chansey is the best special ball in the game for a reason, and Rotom is going to find it very difficult to break through Chansey here. Ooh, the unfortunate crit though makes it easier for Rotom to deal with the Chansey though. You see the Calm Mind come in from Terrapagos here. See multiple Calm Minds coming down. Probably gonna see another Calm Mind as well, yeah. Zap Cannon missing. Very unfortunate for Fogbound League. Zap Cannon missing again. Zap Cannon, a very crazy move to bring into a tournament setting. 3 misses in a row. We've not seen one connect. 4 misses in a row. Terrapagos able to get all Calm Mind uses. 5 misses in a row. Terrapagos trying to rest. Well, the Zap Cannon does, fortunately, manage to get Terrapagos to get paralyzed, only for him to rest it off. Terrapagos is +6/+6. So let's see what offensive move it has. It does not seem to be using Sleep Talk, so it is unlikely that it has that much going on. It is Leftovers, and it did use Terra Stars. I'm not sure why he swapped that there. Probably to avoid getting parried or something. I'm not sure, but Rizaluna does take a Hydro Pump to the face. This one also does not have a Burn Orb, it has Leftovers instead, probably doing the stuff that I did with the Contilder 2 generations ago. We see the Hydro Pump come in and do nothing to Trapagos once again setting up. This time we are not bothering with the Zap Cannon. And we get the Earth Power knocking out Regieleki. Zapdos comes in, Trapagos forced out by the Zapdos. Ursaluna comes in. Oh, now I understand why he's walking out. Okay, sorry. Hurricane does miss. Ursaluna unable to take the risk and deal with it. The Dunsparce comes in. Discharge comes out from Fogbound Lake. The Roost from the Dunsparce comes in. Discharge once again coming out. And now the Dunsparce is paralyzed. Got another Discharge coming out. And now rocks are put on the field. Yeah, yet another Discharge. This time we get the paralysis on the Dunsparce. The Dunsparce is now gone. I just realized this normal team doesn't have Ditto. That's insane. Ursaluna comes in. Get the Ice Punch. See the Ice Punch come in to Rotom. You see Terrapagos come in now. That is not Terrapagos, that is Xiri. Magnezone comes in as a response. Zoroark does click the knockoff to get rid of Magnezone's leftovers. Ursaluna comes in on the Discharge. It does take it pretty well. Ursaluna gets a free bulk up. And Magnezone uses Body Press, but to not much avail. Ursaluna does threaten a lot of things with this Drain Punch or Facade or Earthquake, whatever it does. And in fact does get a KO onto the Raging Bolt. The missed Hydro Pump on Rotom going to prove fatal for our friend Fogbound Lake, as the Zapdos comes in with the missed Hurricane into the Ice Punch, knocking it out. So that is how it is. And that is the end of that match. So, very unconventional normal team. This is the first time normal's been brought, if I'm aware, and it's going to be the first victory that normal will have. Not really much to comment on. The Dunsparce is an interesting concept. Not sure if I prefer it over Porygon 2 or even Blissey, but I didn't really get to see the full potential of this thing, so I'd have to look at it a bit more or do my own research. But yeah, the Terrapagos set was actually quite intelligent, quite smart. He actually used a mix of Earth Power and Terra Star Storm along with Calm Mind, and he used the Solo Rest so that it could actually re-trigger its Terra Shell, which is actually something very, very smart to do. Because it basically buys you like another turn, if you're able to move your momentum properly. So it's actually not that bad of an idea. But yeah, let's move on to the next match. Alright, we got Maskeauuu versus Zern. We got Flying versus Flying, but one of them has Zappy G, and the other has a Memories. Let's see who in this match wins. Alright, both Gliscors are out. Both Gliscors use Protect turn 1. We are off to a great start. So, first Gliscor goes into Skarmory. Skarmory gets its Rocky Helmet knocked off. Gliscor on Zern's side now switches out and goes into Corviknight. Corviknight taking the Stealth Rock Lake, U-turning out into Tornadus. Tornadus is heavy duty boots with nasty plot, but it switches out into Corviknight as a response to Gliscor. Corviknight absorbs the toxic meant for Tornadus, but the Gliscor on Zern's side comes back out, and he is now knocked off, preventing further knockoff damage from any other potential threats. The knockoff goes onto Skarmory again, but to no avail, as Skarmory has already had its Rocky Helmet removed. We see the Whirlwind come out and getting Chip onto Enamorus, but the Tornadus comes out as a result. Corviknight coming in as a prediction to the Tornadus, but the Tornadus does use Heat Wave on it anyway, and Corviknight U-turns out into Gliscor. Gliscor trying to use Toxic again, likely, but it is instead doubled out into Dragonite. Dragonite unable to do anything against Skarmory though. Skarmory putting down its Stealth Rocks as a result of that free turn. Tornadus comes in with a Bleak Wind Storm, lowering Gliscor's speed, but not really putting it into KO range. Skarmory comes out as a response to Gliscor. Gliscor unable to Toxic his Tornadus. I know this is not a Mono Threat match, this just happened, this is not a Mono Threat match. The Mono Threat type for this week was Ground. Not flying. But back to the match. Tornadus does lower Gliscor's speed significantly, and it is in KO range, but it comes at the cost of Tornadus' status increment. The Gliscor does use Protect, and Tornadus uses Nasty Plot as a result. The Bleak Wind Storm coming from this +2 Tornadus will be powerful. It does connect onto the Dragonite, and it likely... he does not decide to risk it, and decide to risk his Tornadus. Instead, he'll use its Regenerator to get it to take HP back. You see the extreme speed onto Corviknight, but it obviously does very little damage. Corviknight uses U-turn, goes into his own Dragonite, proving to be Choice Band due to it taking Stealth Rock damage. Enemy Dragonite comes in, but it does get Ice Spinnered in the face, leading to the first KO of the game at turn 23. Ice Spinner is used again as extra damage onto Skarmory. Skarmory brings in the Gliscor with Whirlwind. Gliscor is swapped out into Tornadus, with Skarmory recovering its HP. Tornadus taking a little bit of toxic damage, but not too much. Tornadus uses Bleak Wind Storm on enemy Tornadus, lowering its speed, potentially going for another. But instead he goes for the Heat Wave, possibly predicting either the Corviknight or the Skarmory to come in as a response. Zern decides to switch out his Tornadus to recover its HP with Regenerator, and puts in Gliscor as a result. Gliscor and Corviknight facing off against each other, Corviknight losing its leftovers in the process, however, which could prove to be very annoying in the future. Gliscor still able to provide a healthy threat potential due to it having Poison Heal and being very hard to kill. Gliscor is seemingly going to spam knockoff endlessly, trying to waste a PP from Corviknight. Both Gliscors are now on the field. Skarmory comes in on the Gliscor, likely trying to shuffle spikes. The Rocky Helmet does chip down Gliscor and actually puts it at a relatively dangerous HP, making it hard to switch into anything. Tornadus comes in, Skarmory fully recovers its HP. Gliscor on Zern's side comes back out, with a nasty block coming in from Maskeauu's Tornadus. Tornadus is now swapped back into Gliscor, who takes 28%, and Gliscor on Zern's side fails to make the Toxic connect onto the Tornadus. Gliscor uses a knockoff and now is back at healthy HP. Skarmory does use the Whirlwind to bring out Tornadus again though, and Tornadus does bring in the Gliscor. Gliscor comes in, or I already said that, but Bleak Wind Storm comes in and lowers Gliscor's speed significantly. The knockoff is used and the Toxic Orb is removed from the enemy Gliscor on Maskeauu's side. Maskeauuu uses knockoff on enemy Gliscor, and Zern uses knockoff as a result, but he gets a crit instead. Both Gliscors still healing a lot from Poison Heal. Maskeauuu Gliscor staying in while Zern switches out to Skarmory. Skarmory using Roost, and Tornadus being put in by Maskeauuu as a result. Tornadus uses Nasty Plot, but gets whirlwinded out by Skarmory. Zapdos comes in as a result, but isn't really able to do much in the face of Skarmory, so he uses U-turn to pivot out. Skarmory on the enemy side is brought out instead. Tornadus is brought back in. Skarmory uses Body Press on the Tornadus. Not really doing that much damage, but still doing a decent amount of chip. Tornadus using Nasty Plot as a result, threatening the Gliscor with its Bleak Wind Sword. The Bleak Wind Storm almost KOs, but Tornadus gets Toxic as a result. Gliscor uses its Protect. Tornadus going for the more accurate Heat Wave to try and finish off Gliscor, but Gliscor is able to protect. Tornadus misses a crucial Heat Wave that could have KO'd Gliscor. and now he was forced to switch out into Skarmory. Gliscor is still spamming Protect as much as possible, but it should be running out of PP soon. Oh, never mind, it's not. Enemy Skarmory is brought in by Whirlwind, but Maskeauuu recovers his Skarmory's HP and Tornadus is put in Monster inside. The Heat Wave onto Skarmory happens, and Enamorus is brought out and worn down again. Corviknight comes in as a response. Enamorus uses the Moon Blast, but it proves to not do anything. Tornadus Therian comes in as a result. On the U-turn from Corviknight, Gliscor comes in to try and deal with it. Zern was likely going to go for a nasty plot predict on Maskeauuu, but he does not. He instead goes into Corviknight, and Maskeauuu presses Knockoff to remove Corviknight's leftovers. Corviknight does not die to its knockoff due to its item being gone, and now it clicks Roost to try and recover its HP and be healthy for future threats. U-turn is used on Corviknight's side. Dragonite comes out. Gliscor does use Protect. The Ice Spinner proving to be very dangerous because most of Maskeauu's threats are unable to take it. So Dragonite actually able to get a KO on Skarmory, and now the game has been blown wide open. Zapdos comes out as a response, but Skarmory should be able to take it on pretty easily. It isn't, unfortunately, as it is 2-hit KO'd by Zappy G. Tornadus comes out though, and Tornadus is responded to by Gliscor. Gliscor able to take the Bleak Wind Storm and get its speed lowered. Not that the speed lower means anything at this point in the game, although it may mean something in this Gliscor standoff once again. Corviknight comes in as a result of the Gliscor. Gliscor uses Knockoff, but to no avail. Gliscor back at healthy HP. Corviknight uses Roost here to keep itself healthy. Gliscor uses Earthquake to try and catch the Corviknight, but he is actually faster, so that doesn't really do anything. But Earthquake is literally useless in the matchup anyway, because the only thing it's hitting is a roosting Skarmory or Corviknight, and Gliscor is faster than both of them, so it is literally useless. Gliscor uses Knockoff on enemy Gliscor, and they keep hitting each other, slowly healing each other back up with Poison Heal. Knockoff having 32 PP makes using the move nearly inconsequential. Maskeauuu uses Protect to try and get a bit of its HP back, brings it back to 75%, and Corviknight comes in as a result. Gliscor tries to use Toxic, predicting a switch into maybe Tornadus or Zapdos, but to no avail. Iron Head used by the Corviknight, but it does very little damage to Gliscor. Corviknight on Zern's side comes in. Maskeauuu uses Iron Head to no avail, yet again. Zern's Corviknight may be faster, maybe he won Speed Tie, I'm not sure. But regardless, Maskeauuu uses U-turn on his Corviknight to bring in Tornadus. Tornadus using Heat Wave that does very little to Corviknight as it is especially defensive. Gliscor comes out as a response to Corviknight. Corviknight using Iron Head to get some chip onto Gliscor. Corviknight able to force a Protect from Gliscor as well. Maskeauuu switches into Corviknight of his own. Corviknight uses Iron Head, but does very little damage to enemy Corviknight. Uses Iron Head again. Maskeauuu roosts. See, Corviknight use Iron Head again. Both Corviknights use Iron Head on each other, getting not very much done. See an Iron Head flinch land on Maskeauuu. U-turn on Maskeauu's Corviknight is used and brings in Gliscor. Gliscor is still chip healing slowly and using Protect to try and get more HP, actually blocking a U-turn from Corviknight, which could crucially ruin some of Zern's tempo. Yes, Corviknight is actually forced to roost here now. He does not, and that could prove to be very annoying the next time Tornadus comes in. Now, once again, Maskeauu's in a bit of a tough situation because none of his Pokemon can really take an Ice Spinner from Dragonite. Case in point, this Corviknight isn't really able to deal with that, so it gets KO'd. Now Zapdos comes in and is able to threaten something. Gliscor comes in as a response. Zapdos uses Brave Bird, and Gliscor will get 2-hit KO'd. Actually, it may not be. Yeah, Gliscor won't get to a KO because Protect allows it to recover its HP to percent that may allow it to live, and it does live on 1 HP. Toxic is used, and Zapdos is now effectively crippled and unable to do anything. Zapdos will go down swinging though, since it can't really come back in to the battle anyway. And Zern ends up losing his Gliscor as a result. Zapdos gets KO'd. Maskeauuu only has 2 Pokemon to make this match winnable. A Bleak Wind Storm comes in on Zern's side, as well as Maskeauu's, but Zern's is crucially able to slow. Gliscor is brought out as a result. Bleak Wind Storm very crucially misses on the Gliscor. Tornadus is brought back out on Maskeauu's side. Maskeauuu probably trying to go for regen spam on Tornadus so that it heals up to full every time. Gliscor comes back out, trying to take a hit from Enamorus. Enamorus does Healing Wish though onto Dragonite, and this will prove to be detrimental to Maskeauuu, who now has to deal with Dragonite just spamming Ice Spinner on it. He is faster than the Dragonite now and is able to remove its Choice Band, stopping it from getting O-Code, but still losing a ton of its HP in the process. Ice Spinner will still manage to kill Gliscor here, and now it is down to Tornadus versus this Dragonite. Dragonite uses E-Speed, which allows Maskeauuu to get down to 7% HP. Does this crit? Does this Heat Wave crit? It does not, but it doesn't need to. It hits, and it is able to KO Zern's Corviknight. That is a roll, by the way. I'm pretty sure it did 33% previously, but intense match, 106 turns, Flying v Flying. Both sides played well. Both sides had very, very strong options present. Zern was able to wield Dragonite, his Choice Band Dragonite, very well into this matchup, constantly slowly whittling down his checks and allowing for some certain checkmate situations, and constantly knowing that he had Enamorus' Healing Wish in the back probably gave him a bit of peace of mind, allowing him to use his Dragonite a bit recklessly. However, it is unfortunate that the game state went to the point that Maskeauuu was able to live very barely with Tornadus, and Dragonite was outsped. His Dragonite was outsped by Maskeauu's Gliscor, I believe, right? Yeah, his Gliscor was outsped his Dragonite, which proved to be very unfortunate because had he been able to get that Oko, he would have been able to switch out into Corviknight and then just kill Tornadus with E-Speed very recklessly, or risklessly, but sadly that's not how it went down. But yes, very good from both sides. Honestly, I think both sides played this really well. There wasn't a ton of hacks either, it was just very strategical, very thought out gameplay. And yeah, it's just very, very nice game. I'm sure a lot of people thought this was boring though because, you know, it's stall v stall. But what can you do? What can you do? Alright, next up we have Captain Kraken versus Dieu Amphibien, two of my favorite players up against each other. We got Captain Kraken rocking Dark with Hoopa on Bound and Dieu Amphibien running Sand Ground with no Excadrill. Probably doing the same thing Scarfire was trying to do previously, so let's see how this match goes. So we see the instant Landorus put in, Greninja instantly trying to Captain Kraken seemingly predicting a U-turn from the Landorus and going straight into Tinglu. Tinglu comes in, taunts the Hippowdon. Massive progress made with the Ruination, getting rid of 50% of Great Tusk's AP. Great Tusk comes in and tries to use a close combat, but it is unable to make a very big dent into Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz's Overcoat finally proving useful, as it is blocking the Sandstorm damage that usually would come from Tyranitar, but Tyranitar isn't good on Dark in this generation, sadly. Anyway, Darkrai comes in and burns the Clodsire, which will provide very useful chip for the rest of the game. Greninja does get Toxic though, which is not very good for it. The extra sensory does come through though, and because of the burn, it doesn't do, the Earthquake does not do as much as it normally should. Extra sensory comes out again, but Greninja is taking a lot of damage. Hoopa Unbound come in. knocking off, and Glassdoor knocks off its Assault Vest. Facade comes through. Hyperspace Fury is used as a response, but Glassdoor is faster. Oh, and the unfortunate magician actually coming to bite Captain Kraken in the butt. Maskeauuu does get to come in as a result, though, with the triple axle. Hopefully he doesn't miss. Ninja comes out on the response to Clodsire and is able to most likely click Ice Beam and take out Clodsire as a result, but it does lose a lot of its HP to Chip from Toxic. Mamoswine comes in as a response, and Tinglu is used to respond to it. Earthquake comes out. Tinglu does not receive leftovers healing, which means that it is likely Rocky Helmet. As we'll see from this Great Tusk, it is indeed Rocky Helmet, which means that Great Tusk cannot win this Rapid Spin War. It does end up KOing Tinglu straight up though with its close combat. Maskeauuu comes in, threatening it with its triple axle. Maskeauuu going to be a massive problem for Dieu Amphibien in general. We do see a successful triple axle, all 3 hits land. Will he be able to do it again? He is, and Hippowdon will go down as a result. Mamoswine comes in as a response. Ninja gets KO'd as a result, and Maskeauuu comes back in, likely going to click Flower Trick. Flower Trick does come out and knocks out the Great Tusk. Now the Landorus comes in. Landorus uses U-turn, and Mamoswine gets to come in for free. Icicle Crash knocking out the Mandibuzz, and let's see, does he go into, yep, he goes into Maskeauuu again. Glassdoor comes in as a response. The Flower Trick will prove to, actually will not to the KO. But Darkrai comes in on the Protect. Now, what set is Captain Kraken using on Darkrai? We do not know yet. All we know is that it is faster than Glassdoor, but that shouldn't be surprising. A U-turn is used, and knockoff is used as well. The Assault Vest on Mamoswine called out. Alright, and we see the Flower Trick, but unfortunately, even though it does KO the Landorus, I believe that the Ice Shard from Mamoswine will KO Maskeauuu. It does not! And as a result, Captain Kraken actually wins. But yeah, that is very well played back from Captain Kraken, proving that Dark is once again still an elite type that just has so many tools to deal with so many matchups. I believe, I'm not sure if this Maskeauuu was actually Choice Band or Choice Scarf. I think it was Choice Scarf based on damage. But regardless, very well played Captain Kraken. He was able to knock out this team that was tech to somewhat deal with his Dark. The unfortunate Koopa Unbound, Toxic Orb grab, that could have been a very good tech if Dieu Amphibien had at any point led with Gliscor, but he unfortunately did not. And it resulted in that not being able to do anything. Actually, that wouldn't have worked anyway, because Gliscor would have had to press knockoff to and most of them usually click protect, so... If anything, Koopa Unbound was just used so that he could actually deal damage to Gliscor without having to deal with the protect shenanigans. But yeah, regardless, very well played to both sides. Very good team building from both sides as well. Very nice game. Congrats to Captain Kraken. Alright, now we have Froll 1 versus You to the Clown. We finally have our first fairy team in the tournament, and it's up against Ghost. Very standard Ghost as well, with Mimikyu. You to the Clown, or not you, but Froll using a Clefable team with a Zugubu. We'll see if he's Choice Band or Setup. He does seem to be, actually no, he seems fine. But yeah, we see the Enamorous instantly threatening and KOing the Brambleghast. A Thunderbolt coming in from Fluttermane instantly knocking out Enamorous and proving that it was not Choice Scarf. Klefki able to get both of its screens down, and is starting to set up spikes. Spectrier is scarily enough going to start getting nasty pots off. And we've seen what happens when Spectrier gets going, so needs to watch out. Dragapult comes in. The screen's turns are running dry though, and without hazard removal, that is the last time Klefki is going to be able to come into this game. Fable takes the burn very well. Since Magic Guard prevents it from taking damage, we get the Lucky Para, which allows Clefable to knock out the Pokemon. We see the free Swords Dance due to Klefki switching in. Balloon Cerulege, allowing it to avoid the spikes, but at what cost? Now it doesn't have Focus Sash to take the hit from Iron Valiant. But the Draining Kiss comes in, and we might see potential. Actually, no, it is forced out by Fluttermane unless it is the bulky set and not able to outspeed. But it is. Yuta is not willing to risk it, and probably does think that it's full speed. I think it's full speed too, but we don't know for sure. Then the Q uses Shadow Claw, doing very little damage to Clefable. Fluttermane comes in, takes a knockoff, and loses its specs as a result, making it easier for Clefable to wall it. Clefable uses Moonblast instead, and gets KO'd. Azumarill comes in, and Aqua Jets, so that might be Choice Band, but it could just be unboosted Aqua Jet, because Fluttermane is a very weak one. Yeah, it was unboosted. The knockoff comes in, but the Colder Berry saves it, but not enough. Azumarill is still able to do a ton of damage to it, even through the Colder Berry. And with Infused Disguise knocked off, Azumarill is able to get a Liquidation to secure the match. Very, very good showing from Froll. Now, I've been asking around why people aren't using Fairy, and the reason is because of Steel, literally specifically Steel. And the fact that Scizor kind of just completely destroys the type if it's brought, and Scizor is pretty common on Steel teams, and it's very hard for Fairy to build around Steel. Because you want teams that can play well into any matchup, and Fairy just has a very, very hard time dealing with Steel. So that is one of the main reasons. Also, there's just a lot of unfortunate anti-tech against Fairy due to Fairy types being somewhat prevalent on other types as well, like Primarina on water, and also Enamorous on flying, as we've been seeing. So stuff just may accidentally end up checking it, and proven to be problematic when they don't even intentionally try to prep for it. But yeah, very well played Pro. Happy to see Fairy win a game. Let's move on to the next game. So now we have 2008 Mario Kart, I have no idea who that is, and Shucklegigas. We have Flamigo Flying being brought into semi-standard Ghost, but it has Hisuian, Zoroark, and Sinistra instead of the standard. Sorry, I'm blanking out on the name right now. Brambleghast and yeah, just Brambleghast actually. The other one isn't important, but Shucklegigas using a very non-standard flying team with no Gliscor, notably. So this is going to be very interesting. So we see the Sinistra lead. Landorus comes in, proving to intimidate. We see the U-turn come out. It actually turns out to not be Sinistra, but is in fact Zoroark. The Poltergeist, however, misses on Skarmory, which means that we do not know for sure if it is Lefties or Rocky Helmet. It's very likely Rocky Helmet, though. I haven't seen a Lefty Skarmory in a long time. Gholdengo using Thunder Wave onto Gyarados. Gyarados uses Waterfall on the Sinistra. This time it's for real. Sinistra uses Shadow Ball on the Articuno, doing very little damage. Flamigo comes in, and unfortunately for this Gholdengo, ooh, maybe not so unfortunate, because Gholdengo was actually able to outspeed and KO the Flamigo. So the Flamigo there was actually supposed to be good against Dark. I mean, not Dark, but Ghost, since it could actually kill Gholdengo very easily. But it's unfortunately so frail that Gholdengo was just able to kill it. which is very sad. Fluttermane actually knocking out Gyarados pretty much effortlessly. We go into Gholdengo. Landorus uses Stealth Rock. Don't know what set it is. It could be Choice Stealth Rock, but we do not know for sure. Choice Band is swapped onto Gholdengo. Ah, I see. It was actually not Gholdengo. It was, in fact... Wait, I'm confused. Okay. We'll figure this out later. But Corviknight is hit by a Shadow Ball drop, which is not very good. Spectrier just gets to freely spam Shadow Ball, get it +1, and we might see a Spectrier sweep if Landorus is not Scarf. It very likely is, though. It is. Scarf Stealth Rock, very psychopathic set, but it is somewhat common in the Tournament scene. Gholdengo uses Thunder Wave on the Corviknight, which can cause some hacks later. Yes, it was actually, it wasn't Gholdengo that killed it, it was Hisuian Zoroark, because Hisuian Zoroark, I'm pretty sure the Gholdengo on that one did not have, it didn't have, Balloon. So yeah, that was unfortunate. Landorus comes in, does very little damage to Sinistcha. Sinistcha probably going to look for a strength set here. It does not. We instead get the Dragapult switch in to threaten Articuno. Corviknight comes in as a response, but Dragapult just gets to click Dragon Darts and kind of just KO Corviknight for free. Now, I'm not sure if this is Choice Band or not, but it doesn't matter because Landorus just KOs it anyway. Is this Fluttermane Choice Scarf though? But Fluttermane may be Choice Scarf, let's find out. He could be bluffing. He is not bluffing, he is in fact Choice Scarf Fluttermane, and Shucklegigas loses as a result. Very unfortunate for Shucklegigas, he had a tech and was unable to use it due to Hisuian Zoroark shenanigans. He probably thought that it was maybe a balloonless fat set on Gholdengo, but it was in fact Hisuian Zoroark who is naturally faster than Choice Band Flamigo. The Flamigo set actually probably is meant for Steel instead, since it kind of does just get to click for free on Steel. And since Gholdengo can't play any mind games with it, it just kind of dies. And that might also be why it's using Choice Band in general, so that Skarmory also can't come in on it for free. But yeah, it's likely for Steel, not for actual Ghost, but it could have been very useful against Ghost, but unfortunately it just kind of got bopped. But yeah. Very nice match. Let's move on to the next one. Also Power Gem Fluttermane proving to be annoying yet again. And we have to actually keep watch of Choice Scarf Fluttermane because that is now a set that I have seen more than once, so we have to be on the lookout for that. Alright, we got Sunfire. This time, we broke up the status quo. Instead of it being Ninetales, it's Torkoal. Very, very interesting. And it's up against Water. Literally the same matchup we had in the first match. Or same type matchup. Definitely not the same team matchup because this is not a rain team. This is a somewhat bouncy team with... Yeah, I mean... Water just has so many archetypes. It's hard for me to even come up with names for every single archetype. But let's just say this is a Manaphy, bulky offense team, and this is just standard Sunfire. So let's see how this goes. As I said, this is a very even matchup, can go either way. Alomomola takes a 36% high jump kick. Torkoal comes in and lays down the Sun. Infestation can be removed from by Rapid Spin actually, so if he decides to do that, he can actually get Torkoal out instantly. He decides to yawn instead, and uses Rocks. Alomomola flip turns on Torkoal. Torkoal using Yawn again, forcing out the Toxapex and allowing him to get his Heatran in. So Torkoal is Heat Rock and not Heavy Duty Boots. Cyrolage comes in, takes the weak armor hits. Swampert comes in as a result. See, Ogerpaw and Hearth Flame come in instantly. Now, is it Horn Leech or is it Power Whip? find out. Photosynthesis on the Walking Wake comes through. It is special attack boost, but it doesn't matter because the sun ran out anyway. We do see the threat of Choice Scarf making LogIce switch out. And Alomomola comes back in. He'll be double into Ogerpon as a response. The Horn Leech comes through, healing Ogerpon for a little bit, but doing very little damage to Toxapex. Toxapex tries to use Toxic to wear it down, but Heatran soaks it up. We see the Magma Storm come in from Heatran, wearing down Alomomola very little. Getting it down to 36%, but it will be back at 69%. Swampert coming in as a response of the flip turn from Alomomola. Ogerpon comes in raw into Swampert, and we see Walking Wake come in again. He does go for the Swords Dance again, but is unfortunately unable to get anything off of it. The Draco Meteor does crit, crucially, which means that Heatran could potentially be 2 KO, but he did not decide to stay in, and instead decides to send in Swampert, who takes the Magma Storm. Heatran is kept in and decides to use Earth Power to wear down Swampert a bit further. Walking Wake comes in to prove to be a threat to the team, and unfortunately Walking Wake will be a massive problem due to it having photosynthesis and getting boosts from the sun instead of it being weakened by the sun like every other water type. Volcarona, rarely not heavy duty boots. We see the substitute come in. Toxapex unable to do anything but probably click Haze. River Dance is used, but as I said before, Toxapex has Haze, so it can't really do anything. Swampert does come in though as a response, but Volcarona keeps clicking Quiver Dance. We see Mono Bug Buzz, potentially? We don't know for sure, but there is one move slot missing. The Poltergeist does connect and knock out the Swampert, but now Samurott comes in. Volcarona gets KO'd, and the Ceaseless Edge is prevented. Toxapex comes in. Did we get the Source? Nope, no Source Dance, unfortunately. The Toxic from Toxapex coming in right here, yep. And now we will see how long can this Ogerpon last with Toxapex. Toxapex does spam recover. Horn Leech able to 2-hit KO potentially, but fortunately I think Toxic will take it out before Toxapex gets worn down enough, especially with... Oh, it does not have Flash Left recovery. Ooh, and the unlucky Swords Dance choice into the Haze to prevent Ogerpon from sweeping. That might be game. Because Toxic has racked up a lot of additional chip damage, so Ogerpon is dead here. And yep, as a result, LogIce has forced the forfeit. Well played from our water player. And very interesting tech by LogIce to use Volcarona as a way to stop Ceaseless Edge instead of utilizing it with heavy duty boots to keep it on the field longer. It actually used it to get rid of it sooner. Now, I'm not sure if that was intentional prep or if that was just situational, but regardless, it was very, very intentional play and very well thought out by him. Fortunately, the team was unable to take a victory against this water team, as it did have some counterplay with Walking Wake, because as I said before in the preview for this tournament, that there are a lot of things that just casually get boosted by the sun, and Walking Wake is one of those Pokemon that can just completely flip the script on fire, Sunfire specifically. So while Sunfire can just absolutely wreck, it can also get wrecked by its very own weather, which is unideal when that is your entire strategy. So, well played to both players. Let's move on to the next match. We have Chaitanya versus Fusien, and Fusien is using a very similar team to the one we just saw against Chaitanya, who is using a Hoopa Unbound Dark team, very likely the same team Captain Kraken used. So we lead with Hoopa, who uses knockoff on Toxapex, and takes it off its heavy-duty boots. Toxapex instantly responds with a Toxic, and nothing on Chaitanya's team can absorb it, so it is free progress. We see a Lumamolo come in, and also lose its heavy-duty boots, which could be very dangerous if Fusien Samurai is able to set up its spikes. Which, speaking of it, here it comes, and this is our first ceaseless edge, very unfortunate. Infestation comes in from Toxapex, and now Fusien Samurai is unable to switch out, which means Toxapex gets to play the game a little bit against Fusien Samurai. We do see the ceaseless edge do a whopping 72% to Toxapex, but it is now heavily worn down. But on the side of Fusien, it does not look like he has Hazard Delivery. So Lumamolo will come back. Roll a flip turn on the Maskeauuu, who uses Thunder Punch to knock out the Toxapex. And with Toxapex gone, it's much harder for Fusien to play the game into Maskeauuu. Tinglu coming in, Swampert putting in rocks. Tinglu also putting up rocks. Swampert using flip turn to come back into Fusien Samurai. Fusien Samurai. They come back into. Now, this is the first time we've seen his Fusien Samurai. Fusion's Fusien Samurai having Balloon to avoid spikes and laying down a layer of his own. Mandibuzz uses Foul Play, but to no avail, and the rare Defog Mandibuzz comes out. Now, Mandibuzz typically does not use Defog, or so I've been told, but it is very nice to see that some people have decided to use it. Hoopa forces out Manaphy due to it likely having a Assault Vest, and Swampert comes in as a result, flip turning on Maskeauuu once again. Maskeauuu forced to switch out because of Walking Wake's neutrality to grass, and Walking Wake is able to use Hydro Pump to greatly wear down Tinglu. Greninja comes in, and very unclear if it's a Scarfire specs. It's probably Scarfire since it has a U-turn, but I could be wrong. Does 21% to Walking Wake regardless. Maskeauuu comes in, and is able to threaten Walking Wake with the Flower Trick now. Or maybe not. Oh, it was trying to make use of it being into Hydro Pump, I believe. But yeah, Dragon Pulse gets rid of Greninja. Maskeauuu now comes in and is able to completely eliminate Swampert since Walking Wake cannot switch into that move. Walking Wake now comes in, and it is Choice Scarf, so, or we believe it's Choice Scarf, it could be Bluffing. Hoopa does come in. Do we see a Psychic or a Thunderbolt? No, we see a double into Maskeauuu, which comes in and knocks out Manaphy. Now Walking Wake comes out yet again, Mandibuzz comes in. Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor again. And as you'll be... Oh, it actually, okay. But the reason why he couldn't go before was because, as you saw, it was Choice Scarf, so it would have echoed Maskeauuu very easily. Chaitanya actually, interestingly enough, switches out because of the fear of Sucker Punch, and actually dies to Sucker Punch. Unfortunate. But yeah. Unfortunate turn of events for Chaitanya, as he did get sadly outplayed by the potential Sucker Punch, which did end up being there, but yeah. Very sad. This Dark team does get defeated, and Fusion's Water team does win due to Walking Wake, Scarf Walking Wake just being a massive problem for Maskeauuu, who is choice banned in this matchup. Which normally would be a free win against Water, but sadly, Fusion was able to outplay it thanks to Walking Wake. Another match where Walking Wake does a lot of heavy lifting. I'm beginning to think that this Mon is a lot better than people are giving it credit for, but maybe that's just me. Let's move on to the final 3 matches. So now we have Mind Gaming versus King Choco. Again, another Dark team, but this time it has Sableye over Mandibuzz, which is a first for this tournament, I believe. And we have this super fat, I will say super fat, water team, since it does have Fusien and Samurai. It could very well be salted now. But we shall see. So we leave the Toxapex versus Ting Lu. Toxapex probably trying to click Toxic. It does not instant double into Samurott. Ting Lu comes in as a response. Samurott clicks Ceaseless Edge and is able to get a layer of spikes off. It does not look like King Choco's team can actually get rid of those spikes, so unlike Chaitanya, he will have to sadly suffer the consequences of letting Fusien and Samurott set those spikes up. Ruination doing a lot of damage to Fusien and Samurott. Ting Lu able to get up spikes of its own, but Fusien and Samurott now has all 3 layers down. Ting Lu trying to get all 3 layers down as well, but it uses Whirlwind to bring out Alomomola. Sableye confirmed to have heavy duty boots, and Gastrodon does come in, but Sticky Hold prevents its item from being knocked off. Will-O-Wisp comes out on Sableye's side to allow some more chip damage onto Gastrodon to make it easier to kill. Encore tries to come out, but unfortunately is stopped by Fusien Samurai, and Fusien Samurai is unable to be affected by his own blows due to being a dark type. So Fusien Samurai stays in and clicks Aqua Cutter. Ting Lu is knocked out by the spikes, and Fusien Samurai is unable to do anything. Yoscarada comes in and is going to start threatening the living hell out of this water team, who now does not have a single mon that can switch into a comfortably. Well, actually, it does have Toxapex, and I don't think that was Choice Band damage. I think that was Choice Scarf damage, because Choice Band damage would have allowed Toxapex to die there. Sadly, the heavy-duty boot spam could be very effective, as King Choco is unable to truly break through defensive core shown here. We do see Fusien Samurai get a +2 sword stance off, but Dondozo, unaware, is able to block that very easily. Dondozo clicking body press, but hitting absolutely nothing. Gastrodon gets to come in for free and take absolutely 0 damage from these hazards. Knockoff is now used again, but again, Sticky Hold prevents Knockoff from being able to do anything on Gastrodon. Earth Power coming in time and time again. Gastrodon desperately trying to wear down the amount of recover uses that Sableye has access to. Keeps clicking Earth Power, probably trying to not let Bisharp get a free turn. But he does click Recover finally. And Empoleon does come out. Oh, it was actually doing that so that he didn't get encored into it and then get Bisharp a free turn. So basically same thing, but for a different reason. Anyway, Samurott does come in with the heavy boots. Empoleon pressing Surf and unable to do a lot of damage. Toxapex comes in as a response to Samurott though, and here comes Bisharp. Bisharp takes the Poison Jab like a champ, and Alomomola is forced to come in. Bisharp does not have knockoff this generation, so Throat Chop is all it will do against Alomomola. Flip Turn comes out, and in comes Dondozo, preventing Bisharp from being able to do anything. Sableye comes out, is able to barely live and take the body press. But with 2 uses of Recover, now 1 use of Recover left, it has to make use of its final HP bar. And Empoleon is able to get rid of half of it by itself with its Surf. Samurai comes in again, and it clicks Sword Stance. The Surf from Empoleon coming out yet again. Sacred Sword is used to KO Empoleon, but here comes not Dondozo, it is Toxapex instead, who uses Baneful Bunker. Baneful Bunker poisoning the Samurai and KOing it. Ninja now comes in and takes a ton of chip damage and uses Extra Sensory. Does not end up OHKO in Toxapex and does get KO'd by the subsequent Poison Jab. Here comes Bisharp getting ready, but as you all know, Dondozo can just stop it at any point, and Alomomola is sent in instead, but the result is the same. Bisharp is stopped from being able to sweep. Here comes Dondozo. And with Sableye out of recovery uses, it cannot wall the rest of his team, leading to King Choco's defeat at the hand of Mind's Eye, or Mind's Gaming. So Yeah, very sad stuff. He was unable to break through the team. Gastrodon's sticky hold ability proving to be very useful in stopping it from being able to get worn down by spikes and rocks. So these fat water teams are going to be very reliant on Gastrodon as a result. Gastrodon may prove to be better than Swampert on these fat teams due to its access to recovery, it also having hazards now, as opposed to previous gens where it didn't have hazards. And just, the only thing it lacks that Swampert has is arguably better defenses and Flip Turn, ideally. Flip Turn is the main thing that it is missing. Because otherwise I think it might just be better than Swampert, because I will be honest, if this was Swampert, this team would have gotten broken down very easily. But because it was Gastrodon, it was very hard for King Choco to make any progress. But yeah, well played Divine Gaming, very good, very well built team. Let's move on to the next match. It is Azick versus RoyalReloaded. We have Sand Ground with no extra drill again, so this seems to be a very common team, versus Bug. Let's see how this goes. Okay, naming your bug types after the one and only L-Drink is definitely a call, but back to the game. But we do have this mon spamming liquidation all over. Oh no. The Draco Meteor doing very little damage to L-Drink, or Araquanid. A Sticky Web does go down and is going to start being a problem. The liquidation comes in to do 0 damage to Clodsire, but we do send in Fortress as a result. Garchomp is heavy duty boots. Fortress able to sturdy live the Fire Blast, but is unable to get rid of the Spike. But it doesn't matter because it now gets rid of Garchomp very easily. And now Landorus comes in. L-Trank comes in to take the Rock Slide and is KO'd in the process. Excadrill could very well still threaten the removal of those webs, but we will see how that goes. Wait, did I say same with Excadrill? Oh my god. It actually does have Excadrill. My apologies. I'm very out of it. But Body Press is used by the Hippowdon. We see the Leech Life come in from low kicks. Hippowdon does use its eject button, and we see Landorus come out as a result. Will we see a Sucker Punch? We do see a Sucker Punch dealing a majority of Landorus' health, but not enough to KO. RoyalReloaded is in a very tough spot, but let's see what happens here, because Cleavor is still going to be a somewhat big issue, as well as Volcarona and Scizor. In fact, here comes Scizor right now. The Trailblaze comes in. +1 speed to Scizor. Here comes Excadrill. And now we see Clodsire come in. We see the knockoff and a removal of its Black Sludge. It is Trailblaze and Swords Dance. This is a nightmare set. We see the Hippowdon come in again. And we see another Swords Dance from RoyalReloaded. Trailblaze yet again to get the +2 speed on Scizor. +2, +4 Scizor, very, very scary. These webs might actually make it better. Yep, it outspeeds it and is able to Oko the Excadrill in sand. And just like that, Bug wins yet another match. Very impressive. And it didn't use any goofy sets or anything, or really luck that much. It was just Bug's raw strengths were just able to overcome ground here. Very impressive. But yeah, maybe Bug isn't as bad of a type as everyone thinks it is. It could be that Bug is just being used very specifically and very particularly by people who know how to use the type very well. But it has had a very strong performance in this tournament so far, so I'm looking to see how well Bug does in the future. But yeah, good job to RoyalReloaded, and well played to him. And now for our final match, Shiba versus Doflamingo. We have another fairy team versus ground. Now, I believe this sand ground team should have a very, very good time against this fairy team. The only way this ground team loses is if Azumarill does manage to get set up. Klefki can facilitate that, but it is going to be very hard. Klefki into a Primarina flip turn into a free turn for Azumarill to set up, like in front of a, maybe a, actually not Clodsire, because Clodsire could have Haze. It'll be very tough, but Azumarill could also be Choice Band, which could still make this matchup a lot easier. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. So Fluttermane comes in. Fluttermane instantly clicking Shadow Ball and trying to get as much progress as possible. It is a very strong lead in this matchup, so I don't blame him for doing that. Magic Bounce on the Hatterene does prevent the Toxic from connecting. We see Excadrill come in immediately. Psychic Noise is used. Psychic Noise probably is used to stop Hippowdon from healing, as well as other walls. Iron Head used and instantly knocking out Iron Valiant since there aren't really any real switch-ins, so Choice Band Excadrill on Fairy. Probably one of the reasons why it isn't usually brought. We see both screens come in for Klefki. Hippowdon comes in, and spikes are being put down. Hatterene comes in to prevent rocks. The rocks are bounced, and Hatterene is now in a good position to start setting up. Whirlwind is used to force out Hippowdon and force in Landorus, who uses Sludge Wave, but it deals very little damage due to Light Screen and +2, or +1 at the time, but now +2. Sludge Wave comes in again, Draining Kiss, dealing a lot of damage and healing Hatterene very much. Sand now gone and not additionally wearing down Hatterene's HP, allowing it to get rid of Landorus, who is a big threat to Fairy. But the unfortunate part is that now the screen is gone. The Reflect screen is gone, and now Excadrill gets to have free reign again. Reflect is used, and likely Light Screen will not need to be used again anyway. Do we get the flinch here? We do get the flinch here, very unfortunate for Doflamingo, but the Aqua Jet does come through and get rid of Excadrill. We see the play rough for forcing Hippowdon to use its eject button. Now, could this be the free turn we were looking for? He does not go for the Belly Drum, he instead goes for the goes for a knockoff to remove the Black Sludge. Hatterene switches into the Toxic again. And maybe it goes for a Calm Mind. It does. Reflect allowing it to take very little damage from that Earthquake, and it gets a +2 off. Sand is now gone and not wearing down its HP. It does take an unfortunate 31% from Hippowdon, but Hippowdon's big HP stat allows it to heal up a ton from that Draining Kiss. Now, is this Assault Vest Mamoswine? We will find out. Do we get the flinch? We do not. Psychic Voice comes in and manages to OHKO the Mamoswine. Now, do we get to see Great Tusk KO this thing? It does KO the Hatterene. Primarina now comes in. Is Primarina Liquid Voice? It is not. Psychic Noise does come in clutch. Psychic Noise used again to prevent him from healing. And that should be the match. Draining Kiss used to slowly heal Primarina back up. And because Primarina is likely the defensive set, it is able to live this Headlong Rush and use literally any move to OHKO back. And just like that, Fairy is 2-0. Now, it is very scary what Doflamingo had to go through, because he had to very carefully manage dealing with Landorus and also Excadrill, who could have just swept his type entirely, because once again, that is an example of why Fairy isn't brought. It's because those Pokemon are very common, and they just have moves that just casually just get wiped the entire board of Fairy. So Doflamingo had to make sure that his team was able to manage dealing with that, and able to like sack and manage those matchups very well. And as you can see, the results were very fruitful. But yeah, as a general TLDR for this week of NPL, we have learned that Dragon can still potentially win, but it is still very hard. It does get beat a lot. Ground is still using a lot of sand, not a ton of Sandless. flying is still very present, and fire is having a rough time doing anything in the tournament. It's gotten matched up into water. First time it got hacks very unfortunately, and the second time it just got outmatched. But yeah, these games have been proving to be very interesting. We also got to see Normal win a game in a very questionable match, but that being said, that is the end of this video. Unfortunately, this still took a very long time. I apologize, but there will be chapters in this video when it comes out eventually, so be sure to look out for that. But until then, I'll see you guys in week 3. Have a great week.